Okay, so I congratulate you on joining us. I know most of us are on summer break. I'm not, but I think that's awesome that those are of you that signed up, and we had like almost 50 people sign up. And I know many people contacted me and said they had vacation this week or they're on summer break and they couldn't make it or they had kiddos, and that's totally fine. And that's one of the reasons why we're going to record it and post it on the website later. So I know everyone knows me, but I want to do introductions. So um, I'm April Forts, and I'm the State Supervisor of Mathematics at the Iowa Department of Education. And for those of you that like to do Twitter, you can tweet this morning, and the Core Advocates, actually it's an S on there, they have a hashtag Core Advocates, and then you can follow them at Achieve the Core. And then there's my hashtag. We'll use the chat. So if you haven't found your chat yet, go ahead and find your chat and do an introduction. Then that way I'll be able to save that, and I can also put that on the website and send that out, and that way we can keep track of who everybody is. If you haven't done that, go ahead and do that, and you should see your chat. It should be blinking orange. And for those of you just joining, I wanted to say again, so Core Advocates has a hashtag, and you can also tag them at Achieve the Core, and they monitor that regularly. I gave them a shout out for something yesterday, something they sent out over the weekend that I thought was pretty cool, and within a really short amount of time, they acknowledged it. So they're really good about it. And then here's the hashtag that we use, Iowa, hashtag Iowa Math. But it's just a nice way for all of us to stay connected by using that hashtag. And if you're not familiar with Twitter, let me know, because I would love to introduce you to it, because it's just a really fun way to connect. And it's a way to connect with people across the country and on the national level. And the thing that I love about our profession and people in math ed is that it's amazing. Like, everybody will get back to you. So again, I want to congratulate you for your leadership in taking the time out for the summer of your summer. And so I wanted to talk about the learning intentions today. So we're going to do 6 things. And so the first one's going to be what inspired me. And I'm going to talk to you about when I went to the Core Advocate Conference in Denver in May. And then I'm going to give you some information about how to become a Core Advocate through Students Achievement Partners. And then about the Iowa team. And we're going to talk about learning around the shifts. And then we're going to talk about what my role is going to be and what your role is going to be. So first, I wanted to do a warm-up activity and share in the chat what interested you about Core Advocates and why you signed up. Okay, and I think about everybody's had a chance to put in, so that's great. And if you're still working on your answer, that's fine. I think I have most of everybody, so you can go ahead and finish that up. And like I said, we'll save that and I'll send that out so you can go back and just get familiar with everyone's role. And what I really love about this group too is it's a really diverse group. And so we have higher ed, we have AEAs, we have local schools, we just have a really diverse group, which is awesome, because this is just really good to be able to cross all those different organizations. So I would encourage you to go in and read what's in the chat. And also feel free, as we're talking through things this morning, to put responses or questions that we can come back to in the chat. We really want this to be interactive, and we'll get more to that in a minute. And at this meeting, this will be the only one where I will talk a lot, and that's just to set up the stage and the framework. And then after that, it's going to be more about you all talking. So just as we go through this morning, I don't want you to think that this is going to be how we do it every time. So what inspired me in Denver? So I had the opportunity to go to a Core Advocate conference in Denver. Was hearing about this Core Advocates, and so I went and I learned more about it. And what really inspired me was when I went to Denver, I found out things that I didn't know. And when I was in the classroom and as an instructional coach, I heard that the shifts were really important, but it never connected for me. I was never exposed to an experience where it said, oh, now I get it. Now I get why the standards are such a big deal. And now I get why the shifts are such a big deal. So some of the things that I didn't know were why the shifts were so important. And we'll talk more about this as we learn about it. But the shifts are so important because if you're not implementing the shifts, then you're probably not implementing the standards the way that they were written for students to really be college and career ready. And that really hit me because when I was in the classroom, my students used to say, Mrs. Forts, why do you like chase after us? And why do you like, I wouldn't let them off the hook. I'm like, no, this is a big deal. And like, you have to have math skills because I don't want you to be homeless and I don't want you to be in poverty someday. And I want you to be able to get good jobs. And they used to say, why is that such a big deal? And I used to tell them, I do not want to be the reason why you do not get to do what you want to in your life. Because I know I've heard students or I've heard family members, I've heard people say, oh, you know, if I would have had better math skills, I could have done this, but I had to go take remedial math and this made me lose out on an opportunity. And so that's just something I really took to heart and I was really serious about. And I didn't have a full understanding of when they say college and career ready, what that really means. And what that means when they're saying the standards are to make students college and career ready, they're saying when I go to college, I do not have to take remedial math. And that's something I'm working on getting the data because we actually collect that data in Iowa. And from the information I've been told so far, we've not seen a decrease in that over the last 7 years since implementing the shifts. Two, when I go into the military, I had the math skills because the military is highly technical now. They don't really need the grunts that they needed back in the day. And my husband tells me he's active duty and he says, if you can't get them through Algebra 1, honey, I probably can't use them because they have to be able to think and they have to be able to problem solve and they have to be able to figure things out, which is really mathematics, right? I mean, computation, fine. They can take out their cell phones and do a math problem. But unless they can really think and they have those skills, then they're not going to be successful. And then when I go into a career, I have the math skills. So most cars contain computers. And so we all know when we go to the airport, there's these kiosks. And McDonald's now, because of the minimum wage, I don't know if you've heard this, but they're implementing kiosks to where we'll walk up to the counter and we'll actually input our own order because they don't want to pay that higher minimum wage. And then a lot of restaurants now, you can go and there's a little kiosk that sits on your table and you pay that way and you can order your food that way. And one of the things that I didn't realize before is that the standards were not a checklist, but the other part is that this is really based on research as far as what are the skills the students really need to be successful. So it's not just a list of things that people just said, oh, this sounds like a good idea. They looked at the research, and that was something else that Shelby Cole made me really aware of because I didn't realize that they had really studied these other countries and they had looked at the research and they didn't just, I mean, we hear a lot of things like some of you mentioned in the chat. It gets a bad rap and we hear all these things on how, you know, it's really not what kids need and everything, but they really did their research on it. So the second thing is how to become a core advocate through student achievement partners. And so you can do this. I did put this, I meant to mention that. I did put this on this slideshow. If you go to the website, and I hooked it here under slides. So if you're one of those people that like to want to minimize this and like to look at the slides or take notes as we go along, you can do that. And if you click on slides, it should open up. But see, I test it as a user. So if that link that I put in doesn't open, but so the slides are in there. So if you prefer that way. But if you go into the slides, and you can use these afterwards to kind of go through the checklist of things that you might want to do. If you click on here, you're going to open up to, go back to here. You should open up to a survey. Yeah, it's down here where it says, how can you get involved? So to become a core advocate, it says, I'm not going to read to you because you can go back and read into there. But if you're interested in joining the Core Advocate Network, you can start by taking the Core Advocate survey. So right there is where the survey is at. And who are core advocates? It's people who want to know more about the standards and want to advocate for it. But not only is it a way to stay connected to student achievement partners, where you can find core advocates. So right now, there's 14 states that have launched their own local networks. And these are teacher-led, higher ed-led. There's a mix of everybody in there. Now, when I was at Denver, well, there's 14 states that have local networks. There were 25 states there. So there's interest in half of the country. So this is something that's really picked up momentum over the last couple of years. In here, you can read what they do. Again, it ranges from different levels. You know, maybe you're like, I'm good with just learning more through core advocates and I want to know what the Iowa group's doing. Maybe some of you are like, I want to know more and I really want to get into advocacy. And it's not advocacy like convincing people one way or the other, but it's positive talk about the core and the shifts and why that's important for our students. And it's how we can leverage technology, whether it's through Twitter chats, Facebook, different things like that. You can use social media. And I might have just blipped out of there and now I'm back because I got a little thing that said my internet is unstable, which sometimes I wonder if that's why it does that. But, and I'm going to check the chat right now just because okay, so I see we're having some problem. Are we better now? Okay, Sarah says it's better now. So yeah, it did give me that little warning. So hopefully you could still see my screen and I'll post the recording. I'm sorry, I don't know with technology you plan sometimes. So anyways, you can get into here and see the latest information and news about the different about core advocates, and then there's how do you get involved. And so they have you can contact them here, but we kind of have already done this point here. So I would encourage you to fill out that survey. And this was also from they will encourage members to work both on your own professional learning as well as your level of influence, and ask that you share what you're doing with them so that in the event there's an opportunity for core advocate work. Rob had a great question and said he thinks he already filled out the survey, but is there a way to tell for sure? Yes, and I can show that to you. So when I go back over to, so if you filled out the core advocate survey, then when you go, it will look like this and you'll see that I have a login because you'll get a login. And so when I log in, then I'll be able to go in and, oh, they're having technical difficulties. Well, that's not good. You can go in and see your information and edit it. So, oh, it looks like I didn't select a state for some reason. And then you can fill out all this information and let them know what you're connected with, what you're doing. And this gives them a sense of what your skill set is as far as what you're doing with it. And then you hit submit down here. And you can start it and resume later. You can save it and resume later, resume a previously shared form. So yes, that was a great question, Rob, because actually I thought I had done it and I wasn't sure. And so I actually contacted them and said, hey, did I do this? And they were like, other people did too. I actually contacted Janelle at Student Achievement Partners and I'm like, hey, did I ever fill this out? I'm like, I'm sure I should know this. And she was like, because I at that point couldn't even figure out like how to check. And she was like, well, you started it but didn't finish it. But if you do that, April, that would be great. So I'm like, okay, we'll do. So that's some of where when I said the leadership part, because I mean, this could lead to, I don't know, opportunities for other leadership and help you to develop your own skill set. And as I was a classroom teacher, I kind of like to challenge myself to do other things because I always knew that that was increasing my skill set, right? I was going to learn some things. I was going to connect with some people that knew more than me. And I was always very growth mindset of, hey, teach me because I can learn that. So the other thing is they'll ask that you share what you're doing on their core advocate form, action form. And I actually had tried to open these up ahead of time so that I would have them open so that it would stream a little bit better. Let me open this quick. And then I got lost in all my tabs up here. So they have this, it's just a Google form, and you go in and fill out and let them know what you're doing, what state you're in. And then this is how they kind of know who's doing what and who would be a good person that if they get contacted from somebody in Iowa that says, hey, I would like some PD around the shifts for my district, and can you send somebody, or maybe it's oh, we're not available, or hey, we cost too much money, which, just whatever the case is, right? Because all of our districts are different sizes. Then they might say, hey, but you know what? We know we've got Marty back in Bettendorf, and she's in your area, and she's a core advocate. And so what they'll do is they learn about your skill set, then they'll kind of put themselves behind you and kind of say, nope, you can contact Marty and she has the skill set to do what you're looking for. And it looks like I was just a little unstable. Again, my apologies for that. I think it's part of this rain. I saw the rain and I was like, of course it's going to rain, right? Because that messes with everybody's internet. At least if you live in the country like I do, it does. So then the other thing that I would encourage you to do is to get on their email list. So it's a really great way to find out about things early on. So like over the weekend, they had some stuff for fluency, for a math fluency for K-5 that they put out. And I loved it because I got an email that let me know. And so I didn't have to go out and discover it, because something I've discovered about the Achieve the Core website and Student Achievement Partners is they're doing a ton of work out there where this is their full-time job. So they're not doing PD during the day. They're not trying to teach during the day. Like, they're working together collaboratively to try to bring resources to teachers and to the field, to educators. And so this was an email that I received. Now I opened it in the web form so that you could see, but this was an email. And if you're on my email distribution list, a lot of times you'll see, I'll say, hey, from Achieve the Core. So what I do is I go in and I copy this and put it in a Google Doc that you guys can click on and get to, or I might link to here. But this is where I get that information. And I would love if you would get that information too, because then that just helps us to leverage that conversation. Because then the more people that know the information, that's the better, right? We can work more efficiently and effectively. So that really excites me. Like, I don't have to be the keeper of the information. Like, I would love if more people were getting information too. So slide 6 and slide 7 have things that you can do after today's meeting. Then in the Iowa team, so slide 6 and slide 7 gets you connected to Student Achievement Partners. So for some of us, we might say, you know what, that's all I want. That's totally fine. However, as I shared, different states have their own teams, and team makeups are a little differently depending where we're at. And because we already have a literacy core advocate and she's interested and we're going to connect with her, like I've been in contact with her, and I think she's going to lead the literacy team. And then we have the math, but we don't want to have like two separate teams in Iowa, right? We want to be smarter, because if you're a higher ed person, then you're going to want to know things maybe for math and literacy. if you are a K-5 person or a K-12 person or an AEA consultant, you might want to know stuff about both. One, just so that you can be a good colleague and share with your other counterparts. But two, also that might be in your lane. So if I'm a K-12 instructional coach, maybe I support teachers. Maybe I'm a general coach and I support teachers in both math and literacy. So one of the things is because literacy is going to kind of wait till the fall. They weren't really in the same position we were. They're going to wait till fall. But what we're hoping to do is to coach this group up here over the summer and provide information, and then to connect the two groups. And because we're having some other state work for right now, that's going to connect to this. Julie and Lee are going to take the leads for the content. So for right now, as far as the Iowa team's concerned, we've just got the two different contents identified because we want to be really purposeful and being able to bring everybody together so that we can have a really awesome team and work more efficient. So, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But so launching a core network, now this will be something that you can explore after today's meeting. And I've lost it in the tab, so I'm going to have to open it up. Sometimes the best laid plans. But they've developed a toolkit through Student Achievement Partners, and it's a network toolkit. And what I love about this is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, we don't have to sit and say, hey, how do we do this? How do we start a network? What are things that work? Because other states have went before us. So you can kind of look through here and see different, these are just ideas. We do not, there's no expectation that we do all of these things, but part of it is sharing the message. So when they say recruitment, it's like tell a friend. They have a philosophy that they shared in Denver. When you know about a good thing, give it away. Like, don't just keep it to yourself because, oh, I want to know this information and everybody else can figure it out on their own. No, we want to share that. So they talk about different things for recruiting and engagement. And that is really, and it's in draft form. And this gives the background history about Student Achievement Partners. And this is stuff, so we don't need to do anything right now, but just maybe over the next 2 weeks, maybe look through that information and to get more familiar with it, because for many of us, it's going to be new information. Then this here is a Core Advocate Network Starter Kit. And what this is it's a PowerPoint. See, I did try to be prepared here. And so it shows just some of the things. This is the Ohio team and the different things that they do. This is the Washington's interesting, but they had a math lead and a literacy lead and then an overall state captain. And really the state or the team captain or whatever, the state lead, really what they do is they just bring everybody together. So, there's just information in here. And some of the teams, they're fun. I mean, it was so much fun in Denver because they're just like, they're people that are really passionate about the standards. And you can see, and so this is just another resource that you can explore over the next 2 weeks. And the reason why we're going to take 2 weeks, so we're meeting now to kind of set it up, and then not until after the week of July is one, like some of us are on summer break. Next week's a holiday. And because there was some of this stuff getting it set up, I wanted to allow you time to be able to do that. Then also this link here are some Core Advocate materials. So when you go to the website, there's a ton of stuff in here. There's stuff in here that I didn't even know that was here. I found something this morning and said, oh my goodness, I wish I would have known. Like, there's just so much great stuff in here. And so they do a monthly webinar. Oh, that's the other thing. They do a monthly webinar, kind of like I do at the Coaching Network. They did it first. And so they record that, they post it. They have a newsletter that you can find in here. Lots of great resources. So there's just a ton in there. So learning about the shifts. So the two things, part of this is learning about the shifts. And this is, if nothing else that we learned this summer, is just why we need to be excited about the shifts, really what's behind that. And then where can we go to learn more? So I don't want anyone to feel like, oh my gosh, she's giving us homework over the summer. But if you're not that familiar with the shifts, I'll be honest, I wasn't. I mean, I knew what they were. I could recite them to you. I could tell you, but I didn't know the next step. So these are the shifts at a glance. And again, this is a lot of great information in here, but talking about focus, coherence, and rigor. And I didn't really understand why focus was such a big deal until Shelby came. And she told me, she's like, we can't skip on focus. If you don't have focus, you don't have anything. And I'm like, huh? And really, it's because focus is where we put the time and energy into things. So really, if we're implementing the standards and we're doing, like, even if we're doing principles to action and we have amazing um, teaching practices, if our focus is off, we're not going to see the results in student achievement. We're not going to see, and when I'm saying student achievements, I'm not talking about scores on a test. I'm talking about when these kids graduate, can they go and get jobs, go into the military, go to college without taking remedial math? So when I'm saying are they, student achievement, that's what I'm talking about, because that's really when students achieve, right? But this is kind of an overview about the shifts. And so there's videos in here, there's connections to other things, but I linked this. And if you go into each one of these, I know I had seen these documents, but again, never really got it before. There is a video in here of Bill McCallum. And so coherence and rigor. So this gives kind of an overview. And so I gave you that link to just explore this page, right? Just so I'm not saying explore this page and every single link on here, but before the next time, if you have time and you can just preview this page and get a sense for the material that's on this page, maybe watch the videos if you have time, that would be great. And then the other thing that I have on here is the agenda. And this was just an outline of what our targets might look like, as far as, so today we're talking about these things. And so the next time that we meet together, so we'll get together, we'll have two components, we'll debrief the learning, and then we'll talk about ideas that we have around the network. And this is just ideas as you're working through this. You might think, oh, this, or oh, that. So it's a way for you all to connect and share that information. So before we meet on July 12th, if you take a preview of the at a glance and introduction of the shifts, and this is the first PD module on there. And again, part of it is just understanding that, hey, there's this great resource out there. Like, I didn't know. And a lot of educators that I talk to, they don't know this is out there. And I know a lot of instructional coaches are being tasked with doing professional development, but they have done the work for us. And they have these amazing modules where you can go in here, and if you have an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours, they tell you what to do in the PowerPoint, what to do in the activity, what to do in the reflection. So it's just a really great resource. So those were the two things that I thought if we could do, the at a glance, and then the introduction, and then you'll kind of see, then I said, okay, now there's a second module, the deep dive into the shifts, and then there's stuff around focus, coherence, and rigor. So we're really just focusing on the shifts and learning about what resources they have available so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm not about reinventing the wheel. So my role, as I've kind of already led to, my role is just to, right now, this summer, is just to kind of facilitate, to organize and create a space for you all to connect with each other and to organize the learning, to, again, let you learn about the shifts, but also the resources, right? And so you'll see, like, that's why I said this time I'll talk a lot just to set it up, but next time I'm not going to talk very much. You all are going to be doing more chatting or doing more talking. So then your role is to attend the meeting if available, with a willingness to share your learning. And if you can't make it, that's fine. We'll record it. We all understand it's summer. We have commitments. Sign up. The second thing you could do is to sign up to be core advocates with Student Achievement Partners. The third thing is to offer thoughtful feedback to the Iowa group around learning about the shifts and the resources. And then the fourth thing is to look for and identify ways to be part of the Iowa team. So we all have different skill sets, and those are all incredibly valuable. So some of us might be like, hey, I love to Twitter. Other people might be like, hey, I love to Facebook. Like, I'm not really a Facebook fan. I'm just too old. I don't know. I don't have an appreciation for it. But I like to tweet. And so in that toolkit, there's different ways that you can do what's in your wheelhouse or challenge yourself to do other things. So now, because I want to preserve your time, and I didn't know how long that we would need. I knew this one would be informational, but next time when we get back together, what we'll do is kind of the first part, we'll talk about what learning did we have. And when we say learning, I'm saying, okay, when you explored this page at a glance, what did you notice? What did you find interesting? What did you find that you didn't know what was there? What was something that, you know, what inspired you? Like, I can say what inspired me about this, just I didn't get it before because I didn't know what I didn't know. Like, I knew it on the surface. I could listen to you, I could spot out those definitions, but when you really dig into it, and that was something else I learned in Denver, this stuff is heavy. It's like meaty. I wouldn't say it's necessarily hard, but it's so connected and it's so purposeful that it's really meaty. And then, so the sharing that we'll talk about is, or the learning will be at a glance. And then that first module there that's on the agenda. And then also we'll talk about any learning around this. Like, what did you find interesting in the toolkit, or what excited you, or what other ideas? So I'm going to pause, and I'm going to allow, before we get to questions and feedback, and I'm available till 10:30, and I wanted to make myself more available because I thought once we get through kind of the primary part of it, there might be some of you that want to hang out and share or talk about that, and that's what this is. So there's no like, you don't have to feel like, oh, if you have to leave at 10, but if you can hang out, it's kind of like the after show, right? When we watch shows and then they do like an after show. So in the chat, let us know, and it'd be great if all 17 of us, and I know some of you chimed in, and if you're just joining us and you weren't here for introductions, please, I'm going to save the chat, so introduce yourself in the chat so that I know who was here, and also that we know you. But in the chat, go ahead and say what excites you the most about Core Advocates going forward. So I'm going to mute myself so that you can think and respond. Okay, those are some amazing responses in there. And I know the thing that just impacts me is I didn't know what I didn't know. The thing of it was I never got the connection to why it was such a big deal. I'm like, yeah. I know the shifts. I was like, I'm doing the shifts. I did not realize, I did not have any concept of the huge connectedness and the coherence of the shifts even within themselves. And it's seriously, when I got the big picture, I'm just like, and when you get it and you start to realize all the work that they've done, it starts to make sense, and it starts to not feel like this huge mountain of what we're trying to do. Because probably, if we're honest, we are all working on the standards. And so this is awesome because I really do like inspiring other people to, like, you know, just go. So it's awesome to see how excited everyone is and how we can collectively do this together and working smarter, not harder. So, you know, having that connectiveness. So I want to thank everyone for your leadership and taking advantage of this opportunity. The response was overwhelming. It encourages me to know that this is just going to be so powerful and so good for our kids. So I want to respect your time. It is 10 o'clock. I will save the recording. I will post it. But if any of you want to stick around and ask questions, I mean, I would love to verbally do that. Sometimes online with verbal in a large group it's too long, or others are like, no, let's just do it because I need to go do other things. So I'm going to invite you to stick around if you'd like to. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love you to talk to each other if you can, if you want to. But for the rest of you that were like, nope, I got to go at 10, It is 9:59, so feel free to peace out. You let me know if you have any questions, and then in 2 weeks we'll get back together.
April, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Comfort.
April, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yes, I so agree with everything that you said. Us working smarter, not harder. I think that's one of my favorite things. I've said this to you over and over, and I don't know who else of our colleagues are online. I've been, doing advocate kind of work at a national level, as you know, for a long time, and we did not have this kind of collaboration going on in our state. I've been doing for more than 10 years, and so I am the most excited, I would tell you, of all when it comes to this. But together, we can really help people see the reason why we need that, because it's going to go such a long ways to help our kids get to where they need to go, or to equip them with the skills that they need to be able to survive anywhere in the world, So I think working together like this would really give us that support that we need. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, Comfort, and it took a little while to kind of learn everything I needed to get the lay of the land in Iowa, but I knew there was potential here because I kept saying I knew I was always looking for things. Like, I want Iowa kids to be just as competitive, right? I don't want more Iowa kids taking remedial math classes than, say I'll just pick like Florida, I don't know what Florida's
because our kids are just as smart.
Exactly. They're just as smart.
Our kids are just as smart. Absolutely.
But if we haven't had the right focus, if we haven't had if we haven't had some of these pieces, then they maybe just haven't had that opportunity. And I don't know. It's a conversation now that we're starting to look at trend lines in the other states. Like, now that you've implemented the shifts and the standards, and are you starting to see less students at college take remedial math? You know what I mean? Are you starting?
Yeah, that would be. Yeah.
So, but it takes a while to get that data, right? It takes a good 5 years of doing something before you can even start to look at the data. So
absolutely.
That's the urgency on my heart for Iowa kids is I want our kids to be just as competitive because they're global kids, right?
Yep.
So thank you for shouting out and sharing, because it's something I keep taking all this in and saying, okay, Iowa, we can do this. We have amazing leadership. We have amazing knowledge. We have amazing skill set in Iowa. And we're small enough to connect. Like, it's not like, we're California where we're the size. I mean, like, all the people in like Iowa make up the number in like one area, right? Like we can do this as a state.
I'm so glad. Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because our size should be an advantage for us. You are right. It's kind of like having that classroom of 30 students versus someone who has 18. You could do more. That's one of the things that I've always talked about when I talk about equity. We are in a good position to be able to implement large scale kinds of changes or innovations that some states that are 4 times our size cannot do so. But we have to see that as an advantage, as opposed to seeing it as, we're raw or we're this. No, that deficit language, no, we need to use that to our advantage. Yep. Are there other colleagues of ours online too that could share, what they're thinking with us or not?
Yeah, there are. I know you can't see because you're on a phone. Yeah, you're probably traveling. There are there's 12 of us online.
Yeah.
Well, there's.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I know some people had kiddos, but and some, so there's 12. It looks like there's, I don't know, 10 or so of us, but yeah, I mean, I'm hoping.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, so if you want to, I mean, just chime in. This is like the informal part, kind of like, this is the after show.
That sounds good. One thing I need to say to you, I have filled out that survey, I swear, at least 3 times. So I need to find out from someone, do they have my information or what's going on? I get the emails, like that fluency, the email about fluency that you got. I get all of that, but I need someone to confirm for me that they received the survey and all of that. Or do I need to redo it?
No, so what you can do is in that link, Become a Core Advocate, you can go to that page. And right up in that
Mm-hmm.
page, it's a little hard to see, but it says Become a Core Advocate. And there's 2 paragraphs.
Yep.
And then there's a line that says interested, right before you get to who Core
Yep.
Advocates are. It says interested in joining Core
Yep.
Advocate, start by taking the Core Advocate survey. When you go into that link, it should prompt you for
Yep.
a login.
Okay, because I know that I've clicked on that before, but yeah, I'll have to check to see what's going on there. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm in the car. You're right. I'm
Yep.
driving. That's why yeah. Otherwise, I would have gone on there to check. But I'll make sure I do that. And then if if I'm having trouble, I'll get in touch with you. And
Yeah.
then the
Let me
other
know.
thing that I need to ask, yeah, and sorry, that I'm taking a lot of your time,
No, you're
but
fine.
one of the things that we hinted at that yesterday in Cedar Falls, but I like for you and I to talk because I really want us, I would like your presence, let me put it that way. I really like for you and I to collaborate because I really want to bring this information to, like I said, part of my job is, facilitating and supporting coaches, all of them, math, literacy, all of them. So I think this is one area that you and I can collaborate on and capitalize on to help bring these 2 bodies together. Because like a lot of other districts, we have a lot of, every single one of our schools has a literacy coach, including high schools. And the elementary share the math coaches. But we don't necessarily, we have